how do you believe that women can support others for continued growth, and how can we have more C-level positions for women in our industry? There are a lot of women who are in the hospitality industry, but there are very few at the C-level. So, how do we advocate for those positions as women, and how can we support one another when, we want to see that be more equal, perhaps, to the split of how many women and men are in the industry? Flo, you've been president and C-level at several different companies. I know you sit on a lot of boards. So I'm going to let you take that one first. But, what are your thoughts around that?
I think we as women need to be the strongest advocates for other women. So that's, I think, where it starts. And that means being responsive when somebody contacts you, even if you don't know them, asking for help or an intro, or could we chat for 15 minutes? Because as I said before, you get what you give. I think as women, we have to be authentic and empathetic, and we have to be honest when giving feedback, but we need to keep it constructive. I sort of remember when I first started back in the late 80s, and, very male dominated, and I would wear suits with little bow ties into the office because, you sort of had to look and act and think like men. I don't think we need to do that anymore. But I think we do have to be cognizant of what we wear and how we look, how we sound. You have to be confident, strong, and assertive, and come with solutions. Many times women speak and just their cadence, they end every sentence like it's a question. And so that doesn't give a good sort of view that you're confident. I think it's important to be financially focused and get operational experience and ask for the job. There are studies out there that have shown when a woman is offered a job, the first thing that goes to her mind is, am I qualified enough for this? Have I actually done it? Can I do this job? Whereas a man says, well, I'll learn it while I'm doing it, right? So women sort of want to prove to themselves that they can do the job, whereas men say, I'll prove myself once I'm on the job. And so, just be aware of your thought processes and get involved. And, that's the best way that I think that you can get it. Sometimes you just have to ask for the job and show that you want it and you're qualified.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't wait. You can't sit back and wait. Women sometimes sit back and say, well, they should know that I'm a really good person and I've done a great job, but they don't notice me. Well, that's because you're not telling them what a great job you're doing, because we've been taught that it's not nice to brag.
Right. So that's interesting that you say that, Flo, because I think, I was a director for a lot of years, and I was at Kimpton Hotels, and I walked into Jeff Sr.'s office and I said, Jeff, I would really like to be promoted to vice president. And, if it's not going to happen here, then I'm going to need to just consider what my options are in the future. I'm not going anywhere right now, but, I want to know, is there a path for me to get to vice president? And he goes, absolutely there is. And he was great. He is one of those people who has always believed in me and gave me that opportunity. And within 8 weeks, he put that through for me. I'm not saying that'll happen every time, but, I had proven myself and I had done a good job. And, I just went in and had that conversation. And always before, I was always afraid to ask, like they would think I'm too aggressive instead of assertive, or I'm too proud, or I'm too confident, or, egotist, whatever. I had this in my head. And finally I was like, I need to ask. And it turned out really well for me. And like I say, Jeff has always been a really great person to me. But it was once the conversation got started, it was easier to have than I thought it was going to be. I wouldn't say do that when maybe you know you're not performing the best that you can. But I think that we've got to be bold enough to ask for what we want. What do you think, Kathleen?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And, you know, you both touched on it. It's how we're thinking inside of us, right? Our own thoughts. We have to kind of redo how we're thinking, because if we're always thinking that we should not say anything because of being judged or being perceived as too aggressive, then it will hold us back. So you do have to put yourself out there. It can be, it's scary, right? But it can be done. It should be done in the right circumstances, given the right performance. You know, make sure that the circumstances surrounding are in good standing, right? So you don't want to put yourself,
yeah.
If there are issues, or if there's a lot of turmoil around you, a lot of people losing their jobs. You know, I've seen people do that, and it's probably not the best time to go out and look for something when a bunch of people are losing their jobs. So you do have to be very cognizant of what is around you, but certainly ask, and don't apologize for asking. Yeah.
And I would say too, on that note, to younger generations, I know it's not exactly the same now. I know that we come we definitely come from a different generation than those who are in their 20s today, right? But, you know, I've had the experience where, you know, someone who was promoted from res agent to a coordinator would come and sit down with me and say, well, in 1 year, I want to be the director of sales and marketing. And I'm like, well, that's going to be a challenge. So let's talk about, so when you're thinking about that career path, think about what your next step is. And because if you can do the next step, then you can be ready for the next step and the next step. And you typically, you probably won't be as successful as a director of sales and marketing if you don't have that experience in between a coordinator and a director.
Right.
It's very rare for someone to be able to hop that, because there are career experiences that you need to have to get you prepped for that role, right? So, you know, really think about that and what your next steps are, and then find someone to mentor you to help you get to that next step. So don't put all the responsibility on those who are being the mentors, but you go and ask somebody, you know, Kathleen, Flo, will you mentor me? Will you, and it doesn't even have to be that professional. It can just be a once a month touch base. What questions do you have? Knowing you can text somebody, but look for that person who can help you grow. I think that's just a very practical step that people need to take. So we're about 4 minutes out, and I've got one last question, and I want to close with this. We mentioned this a little bit along the way, but you know, networking and partnerships in your career are also become friendships. Like Flo said earlier, like we really care about each other. And you know, the two ladies that are on sharing this this interview today with me have become very close personal friends. And you know, 10 years ago when I went through one of the worst things in my life, Kathleen was my first call. We were business partners at the time, and I talked to Flo shortly thereafter. And the thing about building a network and a partnership is that you also build friendships. And it's one of the things that I've absolutely loved about the hospitality industry, because we are, even though we might be introverts or extroverts, we are hospitable. We are in the hospitality industry. We did that for a reason. So just realize the value of those friendships to not just your professional life, but to your personal life. You know, I talk to Flo and Kathleen about my family, about decisions I'm making, personal decisions, not just professional. And I confide in them, you know, with what I'm going through, and they have been a huge support to me, both personally and professionally, and they have made my life so much more rich than it would have ever been. So thank you, ladies, for that.